Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So last time we ran into a glitch where I was unable to create a component under a module. So the terminal remembers our history, so I'll go back in the history and have a look at the command that I was executing, but it was not working as I was expecting to. And let's try to look over what was the mistake over there. Not going too far here. This was the command or CLI command that was not working, or it was working just fine, but it was my mistake. And let's go over what was my mistake. So this is the command that I was trying to execute and expecting the components to be generated at one place of products already exist. So I'll change it to product. So what will this command do is generate a component at this path, and it was doing something like this. I was expecting it to belong to our product management module rather than app module. And my mistake was, since I was in that directory, I'll go back to the directory where our module is supposed to be generated. So it's cd change directory, we are under app1. We need to go to source slash app slash component slash product management. So what's under this directory? Our module. So we are at the right path. So if I execute this command, what will happen is it will generate a component at this path relative to where we are at. So that is what it was doing. And since we were already at that path, we don't have to give path again. We just can specify the component. So this product management, components product management was repeating one more time because I told it to. So that was my mistake, not Angular CLS mistake. It doesn't expect a path if you want to generate a component at the path we are at. So I'll just get rid of this. We needed a product component anyway for our further discussion and for our further demonstration of the concepts. So we'll go ahead and generate a product component, which would be our child component in a parent-child component relationship. So we just run that and see and verify. It will do what I'm expecting it to do. So it's generating a component under project management in its own folder, and it is writing to or making that component belong to product management module. I'll run this without the dry run flag. Now that's taken care of. Let's recap what we did last time. We went over modules, how modules are just classes, and when we decorate them with a module decorator, they become Angular modules. And what does the decorator need? It needs declarations, or in other words, it needs the components in the declarations array that belong to this module. It needs something in imports array that it is consuming from other modules. Providers will get to there in a bit, but providers is an array of the providers that this module and its components will consume. And Bootstrap is an array that expects components that are bootstrapped. Let's look at the product management module and see if there are any differences. So it has the same declarations, it has the same imports, it has exports. We'll get to there in a bit, but it doesn't have something called providers, and also it doesn't have something called bootstrap. But providers eventually will need that. So we'll just go ahead and add providers over here. We don't need bootstrap here because bootstrap is, or it means something to get it ready so that something else can start. So for example, in our specific to Angular, when an app is loaded, what needs to be bootstrapped is the module and the component that needs to be loaded right away. So that is our root module. So root module, it is bootstrap where we saw in our introduction in main.ts. So we are bootstrapping the module here, and within that module we'll bootstrap a component, which is app component. It doesn't have to be app component, we can create another one and have it bootstrap. Or it doesn't have to be app module, but in this case by default app module refers to the root module, and not any other module is a feature module. Can we make this one a root module? Yes, we can. We just have to change main.ts and add a bootstrap property to the main.module and have our bootstrapped component, or the component that is supposed to be bootstrapped in that bootstrap array. And one more thing, what is the difference? Another difference, or from the interview point of view, an important difference is app module imports something called browser module, and a feature module imports from something called common module. What is the difference between these two is browser module is a subset, is a superset of common module. It contains browser related stuff too, because this is our this is our root module. It needs some information about the browsers or the browser that it's launching in. So that's very significant difference. So feature modules can be loaded eagerly or lazily. How to load feature module eagerly is just specify the component right away on its path. So for the path products, if you specify component to be loaded, then that's indicating to Angular that we want it eagerly loaded or loaded right away when the app loads. How to make it lazy load? There are two ways. Both mean the same. It's just a syntactic difference. This is both are actually easier to remember. We load children instead of we assign the property called load children rather than the property component on a route. So load children will have the path to the module, hash, and the name of that module at that path. It's pretty easy to remember. That makes it lazy loaded. This is the same except that it's indicated via an arrow function or initialize. Load children property is initialized via an arrow function rather than a string. So this is the newer syntax. It says, okay, import this module, just as we are using import statements over here on the top. Import this module. At that module, there will be something called product module. I mean, at this time, we'll not go over what this then mean, what the M means. If somebody is already familiar, that's good. If not, then we can look into arrow functions and promises. Both of those concepts are very important with respect to learning JavaScript, TypeScript, or these days probably all the modern languages support these constructs. So if time permits, we'll come to this. I don't want to leave you in a lurch, but we'll try to stay on track. And if we have enough time, then we'll come back and try to cover this concept too, which is not specific to Angular. That's why I'm trying to skip over, but I feel bad skipping over it. So this is what we did last time around, and we'll try to go to today's agenda and take care of these things. So we are done with a quick recap, and we created this product component under product module, and we'll go ahead and strongly type our products. So what does strongly type mean? It just means defining a class, a particular class for that, and we'll have to we'll go over rationale behind that in a bit. So anyway, before that, let's kick off this so that we have an app ready to look at it side by side while we are coding. Just try. I mean, this structure is looking a little odd to me, so I'm just verifying in the actual Windows folder structure rather than Visual Studios. Product management, we have, oh, I wasn't expecting another folder called product, in camel case, product management. So something went wrong again over here. Products, and where is our product? I think I did not, okay, I have a product here, but okay, this is at the right place. Products is not at the right place. Okay, let's take care of that. Delete. Anyway, I mean, even though this was my mistake again, I overlooked some part of the path last time around. This is fixed now, but this gives me another opportunity to demonstrate what needs to be taken care of if we run into situations like this. So earlier the path was different. Now it will complain that some of the paths are messed up. So anyway, I need to go back to, if I do ngSer one more time, it should complain that some of the paths are not right, or it cannot find what we are asking it to find in the import statements, in the paths, in the import statements. So most likely here I'll just delete it and use the Visual Studios feature. If I click on where this red squiggly is and use this balloon and ask it to import automatically that component, and it will do it for me. How about now? Are you hearing me just fine? Is my volume down or is it? It's already in on unmute. I'm not on mute anymore. I'll increase my volume and let's see if it gets better. So now it should be fixed. So we just had to fix one path, and we have a better folder structure right at this point. Okay. So the product is we are on the point of trying to strongly type our product. So what is happening over here in our products component is we just hard coded the products over here, and that too using the literal syntax or JSON syntax to create those products. So right now we'll just actually let me command. I don't remember how to generate a class, but most likely it's CL. Let me see if it works. Model slash product dry run. I don't know if it will work or not. Oh, it did. That's very good. Let me see if it creates the actual class and not something else. So ng command, we know it's Angular CLI thing. Gen G is for generate and CL looks like it's for class. Excellent. So we need to export it. In other words, we need to make it public so that others can consume. If it is not exported, then it's private. Then the classes in other files cannot consume it. So this is export, and if it is meant to be not used by other classes, then we just take the export out. Now we'll have the product instead of literal syntax. We'll say new product. We need a property. Okay. If I just type prop and then hit tab, it will generate a full property. What it means is the property will have a get accessor. The property is gettable, or the consuming classes can read the property of ID. Set means the consuming classes can also set the property, not just read. So if both are present, they can read and write. If we make it private, then that means the consuming classes cannot write to this property, cannot initialize that property. Or if you make the get private, then they will not be able to read. If both are private, then it has no meaning. I mean, it can be as well a private property to the private field to the product rather than a property. So anyway, this is a long form of writing. Something like this. Let me just name that as ID1 number. So this is same as the other one. So both are same. I'll go with the short form rather than the big one. So there will be scenarios where we will have to go with the longer form rather than the short one. If we run into that, then we'll go into that explanation. So we'll have ID property over here defined, and what else we had, the name and the brand. So we'll just try to be quick over here. Try to cover as much as possible. Brand string. So we have these three properties defined. So we just hard coded over here as the property, but let's go over something called on init. So for every component there is something called life cycle hooks, and one of the life cycle hooks is ng or on init. So basically, in other words, it says when it implements an interface called on init. Let's go and just have a look at the definition. So this interface has one method. It's called ng on init. So when we implement or when we inherit from the interface, it expects us to overwrite a method called ng on init. That is for theoretical purposes, but for practical purposes, it just means whatever you are initializing logic is, write it in this method. Or initializing of the component logic is, write it in this method. So we have a product over here. So we'll initialize the products in a new way, in probably a arguably better way. So I'm just because products is an array, I'm pushing our products into that array. So products dot push array. Okay, so I'm just complaining about it needs this. So the product belong to this class. So it's saying you cannot just use products. I don't know about just products. It should be this product. Visual Studio is just suggesting us that it should be this dot products. So this, the properties of the class are referred by this dot. So what is the complaint here? Looks like I don't remember the. I mean, this is this works in C sharp, so I'm getting confused, I guess, between C sharp and TypeScript. We'll just have this constant product one equals to. We'll just separate that out instead of having everything in the push logic. This is what I will do. So this product is instantiated. P1 dot ID equals to 1. P1 dot product name equals laptop. It's not product name, it's just name. And this also demonstrates a good design pattern. So since the class is already product, just the name will make sense. We don't have to repeat ourselves again and say product name. It already means, since it is a property of product, it already means the name of this particular product. So we'll fix that as soon as we noticed it. So this, and then we push it to that array. So we created a product class. We created a class for it, class definition for it. So in other words, we are strongly typing it. In other words, earlier this would be any, the products would be of type any. Now we are saying strongly that okay, this product can be only an array of type product. So let's fix the other syntax errors. Constant p2 equals new product. ID would be 2, product name was same, just the brand was different. And then I'll just push the product to the product array. So ng on init is the lifecycle hook from Angular that will contain our initialization logic. So we just initialized our property of products with 2 products. And we need to go to the template and fix that product name to, sorry, just name. So we'll take care of it over here. Now that should work. So model is over here, the terminology that I have used is models. Model or this models folder will contain models. What does it mean model? We wrote class over here. So that is called model because we are modeling our data in the form of a class. That's all it means. Yes, sister. Send me a message. Are you still not able to hear? I think she left the meeting. So anyway, this is what model means. Model the shape of our data, which basically means a class, but model is a terminology because there are some design patterns which started with the terminology of model, and probably I guess that carried over to Angular 2 because earlier at some point of time, or maybe Angular doesn't even enforce that, it's just me enforcing myself into that mindset. Anyway, I have seen others doing too, so it's not just me alone. Okay, anyway, let's keep on moving. So we strongly typed our products, and then we'll introduce another property of like count to our product. So like count string. Oops, this should be a number. Let's go back quickly to our products and initialize that like count to. If it is not initialized, I guess it would be 0. Since will have to start with 0 anyway with for our products, and we'll store those like count as they increase or decrease, I'll just initialize over here to 0. Now Visual Studio will suggest to me, Visual Studio Code should be suggesting to me, at least I have seen it previously suggesting that when something is initialized to an obvious value, when it is, let's say in this specific case it's initialized to 0, it will say uh, it already can infer the type from this value, so I don't have to specify the type over here. So in other words, when we initialize to a primitive value, for example in this case 0, then we don't have to specially mention the type. This could be like this. So if it was a string, we don't have to specify the type of it when we are initializing it right away. something like this. So we'll just initialize here. We'll leave the type on because it's not complaining. At least this instance of Visual Studio Code is not complaining or even suggesting. So anyway, let's keep on moving. So because it's initialized over there, I don't have to initialize over here again, because that is what I want. If I wanted a different value other than 0, then probably I would initialize it over here. So in the products component, because this is our initializing logic will change a little bit and sort descending over our like count. So how to sort our array? This dot products equals to this dot products dot sort. Sort array takes a function, and that function takes two parameters, a or b, or it's the two members of the array that would be passed to this function, so that that function could figure out, based on the logic that we provide, which one to go first and which one not, which one to go next, or which one will come early and which one should occur later. So b dot, we are sorting on like count, and we are sorting descending. If it was ascending, a would be before and b would be later. So this is the function that will sort our array on descending like. Right now both are zeros. Let me initialize p1 dot like count just like that to 1. Actually, let's see it working in the browser. Works. We need to go to the products. Oops, something went wrong. Okay, there are two errors. Cannot read property push of undefined. So right, over here we described the type of the array, but we did not initialize it. When we haven't initialized it, it is undefined, and undefined is unable to call the method push on undefined. So now we have an instance of that array. Now it should work. We don't have any errors, but we are just seeing one row rather than two. Product is pushed over here. So let me, actually it's getting rendered, but it's invisible. I can tell because I can see two rows. The second row is just not having anything, not having any value. So let's see what went wrong over here. So it is empty. It says ID is undefined. ID1 is undefined. Did I miss the ID1? Even product one, product start push. Okay. Yeah. Let me add one more product and see. Maybe I get a clue from that behavior. Right now I'm unable. Oh, I'm sorry. So I did initialize product P2, but I reset the properties of P1 rather than P2. So that is what happens with copy paste many times. We need to be careful with even copy paste. Yeah, now we have two rows. Now they are sorted on like count. So laptop that is of type Dell or brand Dell, that should be on top, and now Lenovo is at the bottom. So now let's have a look at the agenda and see what we need to take care of next. So we are done with introducing the property and sorting by the like count, and we'll have introduced the input property now. So let's say we have, I mean, the common behavior if we go to the sites like Amazon and we search for a product, or even on the homepage, there will be few products listed, and they will not have all the details. They will have the gist of it. And when we click on the product, that is when we can see more details about that product, like what is the product rating and what are the product reviews and any related products, the pics of that product more than one, but on the product listing page there will be only one picture. So let's go along the same route and have the products just have the gist. Right now we don't have a lot of properties, but over here we'll assume that the like count is an extra property that will be taken care of, or the UI for it will be taken care of by the product component rather than the products component or the product listing component. So what we'll do over here is instead of taking care of, we'll still have this UI, but initstr will ask the product to take care of itself or displaying itself. So we'll try to consume the tag that came with product component, the singular one, or individual product component, and the tag would be app product. I'll just copy from here. If we go back to look at our browser, product works is repeated twice because we had two products in our array and we are repeating using the ngFor. But for the app product tag or the product component, to show that product, it needs to know which one, right? So we pass along, or we need a property that should be bound to the product that we are passing in. Product, this particular product, we are just passing into the product component in asking it, okay, display this. Now this is what is called parent of products to the child product data passing. We are passing some data to the child from the parent. And the way to handle that is, right now this is what it is complaining about. It doesn't know a property, or it cannot figure out a property on the product because it's not there yet. So what we need to do is expose a property. And that property is decorated by this input decorator, which is of type product. So if we try to pass in a different type of product, different type of different type rather than a product for this property, then the compiler would complain and not accept it. So now that should fix it. Now that we have a product, we can just display the same over here. So instead of TD and TR, what we do is we'll just for a change, we'll not use a table, but instead just use divs. Div. I can just copy it from here rather than typing all of them. So our property is not name prod, but a product. That's why it's complaining in the terminal that it's unable to figure out what prod means. So since I changed the no, no, even though I changed it to all diffs, it's a problem because my parent component expects it to be TDs rather than diffs because it would be semantically wrong. So what I would do is revert back to TDs. So now that is taken care of. Something is off over here. Okay. So this TD is extra. The heading is hidden over there. In this table cell, I'll introduce another div, and then instead of, the best thing would be a thumbs up icon over here, something like that, where the user clicks on it and we increase the like count. So right now we'll not go into those niceties, but instead just have a text over here called star. And when the user clicks on this star, will increment the like count of that particular product. Because it's a div, so instead of div, let me go for a span. Let's see how it looks. Actually, this is turning out to be not so good design, and instead of having that having our product listing under a table, I'll just go for if have my app product over here. I need ng for that. You know what? Okay, I can easily introduce another TD over here for the like count and be done with it rather than trying to fix the design, the HTML design issue. So like count, then app product should have one more TD for that like. Oops. count. So if you're not following, and if anybody wants me to repeat what I'm trying to do over here, because sometimes it's boring and you might not be following exactly what I'm trying to do over here, just ask me to repeat, I'll repeat, no problem. Okay, everything is going under one cell because I got rid of cells over here. I don't know, that didn't fix it, whatever I was expecting it to do. So I'll do this instead. Okay. It's not very good in design because I'm trying hard not to focus on the design issues, HTML and CSS things, because once we go over there it will consume our lot of time, and we'll be not focusing on the Angular stuff. So let me introduce, instead of TDs, this needs to be, let me go with diffs. That would be cleaner. Yep. So while I'm at it, I'll take care of that. Getting rid of products works. And we have the UI, the products UI taking care of its product UI taking care of itself rather than products plural. So we need to introduce a functionality where the user clicks on star and we increase the star count. So we'll just have star count over here rather than just the text star. Product dot like count, and we need an on click property binding, right? Click. Oops. Handle like click. So we need a method definition in our product component class. What will it do? It will just increment product like count by 1. Click. Now it's 2, it's 3. It's pretty good, but UI wise it's not good. So let me think about it for a few seconds and then see if I can do something about it. I'll just append some more text. Click to like. But that will mess up. NBSP. Okay, I'll introduce some spaces so it doesn't look so bad. Let's increase the like count of the one at the bottom to more than the one at the top. So now we have a little problem, right? We are supposed to sort the products on like count descending, but right now nothing is happening. So that brings us to the solution of solving that using a concept called child to parent data passing. So before going over there, just let's recap how did we pass on data from parent to child. We just exposed a property and decorated it with the input decorator, right? And that property is bound by the parent passing in some value. So this prod is one of the products that we are iterating over, and we are passing that prod instance to the product property of the child component. It's very easy, right? Expose a property, but you have to use the input decorator for other components to be able to initialize that property or set that property. So we let's go back to passing the data from a child to the parent. So whenever handle like click, we need to just inform the parent, right, so that it can adjust itself. That's all it is. So how do we do that? We use a decorator called output. Right. I will just go with any for now. Okay. Not giving anything is same as any, but so what this means is we are utilizing something called event emitter. This is from the Visual Studio imported from a wrong place. That's not the event emitter definition that I want. I want it from Angular, not from Protractor. So somehow it imported from Protractor. So let me fix that. That's why it was not letting me give a generic return type. So by default it's any. Me not specifying anything or specifying any is the same thing. Or I can just go with, let's say, a string. So basically what it means is when the like is clicked, or the name of the event would be like clicked. If somebody wants to consume it, then you can consume the like clicked, which would emit something, and that something would be of type string. If you make it a number, then that something would be of type number. But right now in our case, let's go with the product with everything basically. So all we have to do is like clicked dot emit this product. Now once this is taken care of, I mean, right now the parent is free to either consume it or not consume it, or use it or not use it. Right now it's not using it. If you want to use, in this particular scenario, it must, because it would look odd that our pages are not consistent. Sometimes they are sorting on uh, like count descending, and sometimes they appear to have a bug and not doing the descending order, right? So at this point of time, let's consume that like clicked. Why this name? Because that's the name we are exposing via an output property. It could be, instead of like clicked, like changed, because that's what happened eventually, right? The like count of the property changed, or instead of like count changed, because later on we might introduce a thumbs down or like decrease the like event or UI, and then events to handle that unlike. So instead of, since we change the name over here, we'll have to change the name over here too, and over here. So product products or the parent component is deciding to handle this. So when like now changed, so I have seen the convention of having the handle or on. Both somehow on doesn't come naturally to me, or maybe just since we are using handle all the time, or so far, let's go with the handle. Handle like count change, and that is not defined in our component class yet. So let's go ahead and define it over there. Products component, like changed, and what we need to do over here is just resort it. Resort the products, right? That's all it needs to do. Once we resort it, because this property changed, Angular has a change detection mechanism that we'll talk about in our future classes, that will trigger and that will take care of the UI. Oops, something went wrong. Not initializing product component. Not initialize, it is initialized. Okay, so it expects a matching. Okay, my understanding was when these two are exactly same, we don't have to specify anything inside, but it looks like it does. But anyway, let's specify that and move on. So now we have the UI ready without any errors, and let's click on the bottom one and increase the like count to more than the top one and see if it changes. Oh, it did. Yep. So gel is up top now. So this demonstrates the concept of data passing from a child to a parent. So child is passing some data anyhow. It's up to the parent to consume it or not. And that is done via event emitter and a combination of event emitter and an output property. So output defines an event that can be emitted. And event emitter class from Angular helps us emit an event. Okay, anything unclear, any questions? It's very simple. Once you get a hang of it, uh, it's like a cakewalk. Otherwise, it might be confusing. At least it was confusing to me. I had to repeat it quite a few times to get it right. All right. So we covered something extra today. Data passing between or from child to parent via output property or output decorator. Let's check in what we have. A parent component is the products component. The plural products component is the parent component. I mean, we don't have to go with the terminology. Whichever component is passing in this property or whichever component is consuming some other component. So right now, this is products component, which is consuming product component. So this becomes a child. So for example, if tomorrow we decide that product component will have related products, right? App products is the tag for the products component, product listing component, and then or our design will change to make the app products or product listing component to accept a set of products instead of itself designing, initializing some products or querying the database from some products. We can design it in such a way that okay, somebody else will provide you the products, right? So in that case, product will become parent and app products or products component will become a child, because that is what is providing as an input to the products component. Is that clear? Or at least that is how I pivot it. That is how I understand it, and I haven't seen anything that contradicts that understanding. So you can go with that, and if you learn something else, then you can adjust your understanding according to what you just learned. Yep. If you want me to repeat that, I can keep asking until it's clear. Right, right. I mean, totally. It depends on the scenario. Right now, just like I mentioned, product is its own. Products, plural, is consuming that one and providing it with something. So that becomes a parent-child. This is parent and this is a child of that component, right? So products has its own UI, and within that UI, we are displaying product, individual product UI. So depending on the situation, a child might be a parent of something else or its parent itself. So it can be a little bit circular relationship, although that will be difficult to manage. Maybe it will be a confusing design for the designer as well as developer, but theoretically it is possible. So we have a few minutes. Let me go over another concept, little bit unrelated to Angular, but let me open my GitHub. So what happened over here is with one of my personal projects, there is something called a bot, a Git bot that keeps a check on the projects that are on Git. So it detected some security issue with one of the packages that I'm using, and it updated the package version from 4.0.4 to 4.0.5. And what it did was it automatically created another branch and updated that branch, and it is asking me to merge that change into my own repository. So even though this is automated process, this is what happens in real world when we are working on the same application but via different branches. So we create each developer 1 and developer 2, they create their own branches, and when let's say developer 2 is ready with the changes after testing, and then he's totally sure of his changes and he wants to push it in, he or she will create a pull request and asking everybody else, okay, I'm done. Whenever you are ready, pull my changes and integrate with your changes, so that when we are ready to deploy, if we have to deploy together, we can deploy together. or regardless, when the developer one is ready to deploy, then developer one cannot ignore the changes from developer two and deploy his own version. They have to be integrated before deployment, because I mean, unless if developer two has already gone to production with his or her changes, so eventually we'll have to integrate those changes. So the way to integrate is, once the pull request comes in, we can just either automated or not automated, we can just pull it. Merge pull request and it will be merged to the master branch. You're all set. This is how we do it, regardless if it is automated or manual. Okay. Anything else from previous days that we could go over quickly? All right, let's call it done for today, and we'll see you later. We'll see you tomorrow, inshallah. And keep practicing. Any questions, you can let me know via the our WhatsApp group. Feel free if we need a one-to-one session or a session midweek so that we can clarify some concept. Then I'll be very happy to do that. Yeah, utilize me as much as you can, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.